Well, first off, Wes, I so much appreciate you joining me in this journey for this passion project that I developed recently called Panic and Patience. And essentially, the whole purpose and intent of the show is really anchored in this conflicting emotion that a lot of movers and shakers, leaders, activists, entrepreneurs have, where they're dancing on this line of both ends of this immense sense of urgency, and which I call panic, and also having to find harmony with patience and balance. You know, a lot of us have that thing that we're looking to put out, whether that's a song, whether that's a project, whether that's a movement, opening a business or starting a business, but also understanding that those things, anything significant, takes time. And so finding the harmony between those two, I think, is a challenge for a lot of those who want to do and not just sit on the sidelines and watch. And I haven't had a chance to talk to you in depth recently, but I know that there's a lot of things that you have done in the community and continue to do, whether it be working with young people, whether it be your children and the teams that you work with, or in your education career. I know you also teach in higher ed. And so I just really wanted to have a moment to just vibe with you for a little bit, get a chance for people to know who you are and what you've done, and also what you plan to do, particularly, being a Black man and trying to make the world a better place because you're here. I see you as a dope brother, and I want the world to see what you have offered to us, and get a chance to get to know you better.
Appreciate that. Thank you for all those kind words. That's good.
No problem.
Good to say that, right? We got to say that to each other. We don't say it enough.
We don't, man. We don't. And so this podcast, I really serves as a platform for us to love on each other, man, and celebrate each other in our efforts. And so what I like to do to start the podcast is really use it as an icebreaker. And so I asked this question with no limitations to where you go with it. But just tell me a story. It could be about anything from your childhood or something that happened yesterday or today. If I asked you to tell me a story, what would you say?
Yeah, I saw you. I was thinking about this when you hit me to it earlier, and just with everything going on, right? Obviously, the George Floyd protest, the Breonna Taylor protest, basically the Black Lives Matter protest, has been dominating my mind, inspiring me, getting me moving, but also sometimes weighing on you, right? Of just like constantly, whether it's, the brother was attempted to be lynched, that happened on the 4th of July, which is stressful, or laws being passed or whatever. But what has come out of that is this Instagram account. I don't know if you may have seen it or not, but it's like Black at these various different private, independent private schools. So a lot of boarding schools and private schools. So I went to boarding school at a place called Lawrenceville in New Jersey. So I got Black at Lawrenceville is like a thing where basically students of color are recounting instances of essentially racism and really brutality that they faced while they were a Black student at this predominantly white institution. And then being that we obviously both are, Black men working at a overwhelmingly white institution, it made me just sort of think about what are our students going through, what did I go through, what's happening to, brothers just getting murdered on the street. But anyway, so, but on a positive note, almost in your energy, it's like not recounting, we don't need more stories of brutality, I think, but more stories of like, I guess overcoming the brutality, which is a whole nother thing about, I was riding in the park and I had like a Kanye playlist. And, ever since he put on that red hat, right, we've all been like, yeah, but a song was stuck in my head as I keep looking at your albums behind you. And I was like, you know what? I really want to listen to Kanye right now. And I realized that like Kanye, for his mistakes, which he's now apparently apologized for, thank goodness, he looks like he's coming home, but really talks about Black liberation and overcoming mental struggles. That's almost the essence of what he says, that in many ways, his songs are the protest songs that we need to be listening to now, right? If you could rewind it. I have another article I'm working on. But I think about how hip hop has played in my life to help me overcome personal struggles. So back to my story, when the first year I got to Lawrenceville, my sophomore year, which they would call third form, I had gone to a private school in Manhattan. I'm from the South Bronx. So I had been around like, you know, white people in an educational setting my whole life. So I got it. But going away to school is another level, right? Of being, I don't come home to my mom and my brothers anymore. I'm coming back home to my room by myself. So I actually, when I got there, the culture shock, the homesickness, really unearthed a lot of my depression and anxiety that I have been dealing with my whole life and still deal with now. And now I have better coping mechanisms. But there was, like you think about a story, I used to just wake up and listen to 2 albums, right? Every morning that I needed to get going. So you get these microaggressions, you get this sort of sense that you're not very welcome. And at that time, 3 Feet High and Rising, De La Soul had recently come out. So this is like fall of 88. So that, right, that plug, it had just dropped. And also Eric B. and Rakim, Follow the Leader had come out. So I used to listen, I had to get up. I remember getting up every morning, I had a loft bed. I would climb down and I had a tape and I had 2 Follow the Leader albums and had them both queued up to the song Follow the Leader. So I could always just press it and go. And I used to listen to that song almost as like an affirmation every day. Like, you're here, what my father used to tell me, you're here to be a leader. You're here to learn. You are Moses in the home of the Pharaoh, right? And your point is to come back and deliver your people to freedom. And I just remember, and then sidebar, so I used to listen to 3 Feet High and Rising beginning to end, because I'd be like, so these are some weird Black dudes who clearly have hung around a lot of white people, but yet they are still themselves. Mm-hmm. And as I was struggling to maintain my sanity and my individuality, I said, I'm just gonna be like Pastanus. And I was just like, just do what would Pastanus do? Is something like I would think. But I remember, but the Follow the Leader was the affirmation. And one day I got up and I had to go to class and I had to get up early to listen to these songs. And I just, by that time, knew all the lyrics. I spit every bar for bar with Rakim. And I just had the pair of those old Stan Smiths, right? Mm-hmm. And I decided to write Follow the Leader on my shoe so that in class I could cross my legs and see the affirmation. So I literally sat in this chair, and it almost like an out-of-body experience. I don't really remember doing it, but I grabbed the marker and I wrote in big letters right on the sole, Follow the Leader. And then I just had it all semester, all term. And then one day, another kid who knew the song, he was like, yo, Wes, why do you have Follow the Leader on your shoe? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I looked down and I'd be like, I didn't even realize I had written it. But I wrote it. I looked at it every day, but almost, it was almost
in your subconscious almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that story of just kind of like in another world writing it, and then the kid calling me out and being like, so the story being like, oh, I'm, in my mind, like, oh, I wrote that because I'm a leader. I'm sorry, I forgot to send a memo out. So next thought. So just, it's kind of like a not a very good narrative, but a little bit more of a mission, but about how in my life, hip hop, the culture, the music, and I'm going to bet every dollar I have, you feel the same way, has given us those affirmations that, so just, I hope that that's happening to young people now, like what Rakim did for me.
Absolutely, man. That's such a dope story. And I connect with it on so many different levels. Like, as you can see, on my wall, I have a ton of different artists, and I wish I had a bigger wall to fit more albums. Because music for me is so much, it's therapeutic, it's medicine, it's inspiration, it's, it really serves as a soundtrack for my life. And I look at albums or album covers or songs as like they're triggers. Like, I remember what I was doing when this album came out, or I remember what I was doing. I remember how old I was when I saw my dad pull out, you know, Frankie Beverly and Maze on Saturday morning, I already knew, oh, we gonna have company coming over because we got the house, right? You know, or, you know, my mom pulling out Anita Baker on Sunday afternoons, we'd be like, oh, we know that the food is about to be popping because mom's got on, she got on Anita Baker, right? Or you know, when Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt album, that was my introduction to hip hop. You know, I was 12 years old when that album came out. And so, you know, it was like trying to sneak and listen to, you know, albums and music that had curse words in it, right? And so, like, every, you know, for a lot of us, particularly, you know, black people, we find ways to make something out of nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you found a way to get through your issues, you know, your emotional, your mental stability, your emotional stability, all those things with a song, you know, or a lyric, or a half a bar. You know what I mean? It's just like, and that is so key. And I hope that, you know, I agree with you. I hope that there's more music that is being created to help young people get through whatever they need to get through. You know, I feel like we had it. I love hip hop, but I lean more towards R&B and soul. That's just that's more my vibe. But there's so many different layers to music, whether it's the beat, whether it's the lyrics, whether it's the way somebody looks, the way an artist presents, you know, makes you want to, you know, do some things that you probably wouldn't had you not been introduced to that artist. So that's dope.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to build on that point, another book, I see you got the Ibram Kendi book, which is the one that everybody should be reading right now, How to Be Anti-Racist. But there's another book that I just finished, The Alchemist, which
Paulo Coelho, right?
Yeah, which I don't know how I never read it all of this time, but you realize, like Jay Electronica mentioned it in the lyric, which triggered me to do it. But he talks about that, right? The concept of alchemy, turning nothing into something, right? That is, in my, right, that's Black people, that's hip hop, that's, right? That's all, everybody on your wall. There is a sort of magical quality, right? Of turning lead into gold, of, you know, turning, you know, the leftover pieces from the hog into spare ribs and this and that, and taking that bitter green, you know, that they didn't want to saute up real quick and turn it into collard greens. Like, you think about soul food is like, literally, give me the scraps, give me the garbage. It means nothing to an alchemist, right? An alchemist says, give me give me a piece of lead. That's irrelevant to me because I have the ability to turn it into gold, right? And this is the inherent power, I think, that Black people have acquired over the years that actually drives these racists insane, right? They're like, I've been trying to kill you, Jay, for half a millennium. And how are you here in getting your PhD, raising 2 kids? I need to stop you. And you're like, I'm sorry, I'm an alchemist. I have a magical ability to turn something, so I can't ever lose. Whatever you give me, I'm going to fix it. And I think that book is so profound because it's like this novel, but it's like, is this a novel or is this like a documentary?
Right.
Because I see that in my life all the time. This is not fiction, right? I seen Jay turn Reasonable Doubt into $1 billion business, right? As proportionally, that's nothing into something, right? I've seen Coltrane, right, turn his trumpet, or his sax into, spiritual movements, that's magic. So
it's interesting you brought up Coltrane and his impact, because I recently watched an interview with Dr. Cornel West and Dr. Eddie Glaude about talking about Eddie Glaude's new book. And they talk about how one of the things that Cornel West said, he said, I wish that Black intellects had this, I wish people looked at Black intellects as they do Black musicians. And they talked about Miles Davis, they talked about Coltrane, they talked about you know, all these and actresses, you know, all these people who've had an impact in various ways, and how music is the through line between all of that. You know, it's just like the music always resurfaces itself in conversation, particularly through struggle and through pain. And you know, he was like, "There's no, we don't have soul music without our struggle. We don't have R&B without our struggle. We don't have hip hop without struggle." And that was the first time I heard it put in that way. But then on the flip side of that, he says, you know, we will idolize, you know, a Jay-Z, you know, a Coltrane, and you know, these folks. But will we idolize the academic? Will we idolize the Black intellectual? And that's, you know, I found that as an interesting, you know, question to pose, as a fan of music, but also being immersed in academia and being around other Black intellectuals. I think it's an interesting conversation to have, and an interesting question to think about. And I'm wondering, because of the point you just brought up, do you think because society has a raised consciousness now, like with Kendi's books, and you know, people are wanting to know more about the history, do you think that it'll shift a bit, where entertainers and Black intellectuals will be considered on the same level from a mass consumption standpoint?
Yeah, you know, I think that's a great point. I think my hot take is it'll never be the same, right? Because entertainers, almost by definition, are appealing to, it's much more low-hanging fruit, right? It's I just wanted to, you know, it's easier to dance right, it's easier to consume Marvin Gaye than it is to read Kendi, right? You can just passively sit there, right, and be like, Jay, play What's Going On, and then be like, oh man, and then your brain immediately, those neurons fire, and then you're taken back to this. Like, because I had the same thing with you. Like my mom, big Marvin Gaye fan, and I remember when she was sort of towards the end of her days, and chemo was tearing her apart. Couldn't eat, couldn't do anything. I put on Distant Lover live. Woo. And you just see somebody who's literally now thinking about is going to be dead in 30 days and can't eat, just big smile coming up on her face, right? If I can't just say, hey, mom, you want to read Baldwin, you know, and get that thing, she's like, I don't have the capacity to get excited about Baldwin, but those notes hitting my brain can immediately win. So I don't think it's a fair fight, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, Steph Curry is never going to win a dunk contest, right? But, you know, I don't know if Shaq is ever going to win the 3-point contest. So it's kind of like, it's tough to compare the two. But so I think that you can sort of intellectually almost grade them on a curve, right? Of like, okay, but we got to figure out who's the MVP, right? Shaq, you're doing 20 and 10. You know, you're doing 30 and 6, right? Basketball, you get this, right? I said, but there is a way we can look and be like, yeah, but you know what? Blah, carried a 0, think about this, and Jay hit the game-winning shot, and he's good in the locker room, boom, 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 boom. Jay's the MVP. That I think what is happening is what you can have a conversation is, you know, Kendrick Lamar is doing, you know, whatever is doing his right? He wins his Pulitzer, and then you know, Ta-Nehisi Coates is over here. I think in that year you were like, yeah, these guys are probably the same. You know, they're both valuable players to the struggle, as it were. So I think you can do that, but I think it's unfair. I think so it's almost like the guard will always win the MVP, right? We're in a guard-dominated league. It's very hard for a power forward who has the ball in his hands 60% less.
Right.
Ever really win.
He needs the guard to feed him to be able to do what he does. Okay.
Right. And then the camera, right? You think from a media perspective. So Russell Westbrook gets the inbound pass. The camera literally follows him the length of the court. So his screen time is so high that when it comes time to who's the most important person on this team, while he's in the backcourt, you don't see, you know, the power forward setting a back pick or something like that. So the people will be like, I have no idea that the other value from that power forward. And then it looks like that power forward is inadequate because he needs another piece. Where Russell Westbrook could run all, 90 feet and dunk on you. That goes on SportsCenter, that goes on Instagram, that goes on Snapchat. Then it's hard to argue that he wasn't the most important person. So I think if using your sports analogy, because I love using them, and you're a real athlete, not a fake athlete like me. But like Kendi is like they're the power forwards.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So, and I think what's happening is people are like looking at Draymond Green and being like, yo, we can't just talk about the Splash Brothers, right? Because when Draymond got hurt, the Warriors ain't win. Right. So you're like, so we have to redo this. So I think you have Kendi, Ta-Nehisi Coates, like a Michael Eric Dyson, people are like, all the way to the electeds, right? To, the sisters, the mayor of Atlanta, right? Maxine Waters.
Yep.
Right. Keisha Bottoms. So you look at Keisha Lance Bottoms, you're like, so once you pull back, you're like, so that song was good, right? LeBron's press conference was good, but also were these other people doing this more less glamorous work. So I think I don't think you're ever going to win arbitrarily, but I think the profile of the intellectual is as high, not as high as it's ever been, but I think it's rising.
It's rising. And I'm wondering, I mean, we could talk about this forever, but I'll end it on this note. I'm wondering if, in looking at the intellectual, are we going to expect, and now looking at the intellectual, do we as a society still expect artists, music artists and entertainers to speak more because the intellect stock is rising? Or are we saying that's not their job? Their job is to entertain. And if they do anything beyond entertain, great, that's gravy. But we don't have that expectation of them. But then on the flip side of that, then it's just like, but where is the so-and-so? How come so-and-so hasn't said anything? How come Jordan hasn't said? Where's LeBron at? Where, you know what I mean? Like there's always that kind of push and pull of, do we expect entertainers to do more? Or do we say they're doing what their job? They're entertaining, and if they say anything beyond, their industry or their profession, it better be right. Because if it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it's an interesting, thought to think about.
Yeah, I think just anecdotally, I think that it's the first option. Is everybody's like, where you at? Right? That's what's actually happening on the ground.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're gonna get called out. And if you do, you're gonna get rewarded. It's actually a pretty nice deal to me. It's like, say something and retweet you, I'll post you, I'll buy you sneakers or whatever. Hide, you can get away with it. But if I catch you, that may, that's it. Like, it's like kids. But I think the expectation is you're supposed to say something, and we're negotiating from there. And I think if you think about entertainers, I think that's also like a bit of people who claim like, oh, I'm just a singer, I'm not supposed to say something. In the Black community, that was never the contract, right? It was never the contract, all the way back to the griot, when we first got here. It was like, my dude, I'm getting brutalized in the field, and your function is to bring me joy when I'm away from these rapists and murderers. You are absolutely part of the struggle. You are born in the struggle. So of course you have to say it. And then you, again, look at your wall. You know what I mean? Like Nina Simone, Aretha Franklin, that you look back and like, so if you're an artist now, how do you get a waiver? You know what I'm saying? Bill Russell was out there, Will Chamberlain was out there, Muhammad Ali was out there, Sam Cooke was out there. You know what I'm saying? Smokey, maybe Smokey Robinson. Stevie was out there. Did I miss something that we said that you don't have to do it? No, you do. Now, if you don't want to do that, we can discuss. It's like you have to clean up your room. I don't know who told you didn't, but if you were busy because you got homework, then I will give you a dispensation, child. But this was always the deal. I'm not saying you don't have. You can get a waiver. But yeah, you better speak up. How are you not? If you're saying, listen, I'm not, that's not my function. It's like, cool, get out.
Get out.
Get out the room. At some point, they're going to get out the room.
Have you
Because you a problem. You.
Yeah. Have you seen that series Dear on Apple TV? Okay, it's called Dear, and it's basically highlighting these entertainers or intellectual, mostly entertainers, and their fans write them a letter, dear so and so, and how this particular person has influenced their life. And the first episode that I clicked on was Stevie Wonder's. And so Stevie Wonder, they highlighted him, and one of the people who wrote him a letter was Brian Stevenson.
Oh.
And Brian Stevenson said that Inner Visions inspired him to create the Equal Justice Initiative.
Oh, wow. That makes sense.
I was just like, I get it. But to your point, you know, when you're an entertainer, it's almost like Stevie was just like, I got to do more than just play this piano or this harmonica. I have to infuse it. Maybe I'm not on the front lines on the protest. Maybe I'm not, sitting at, doing sit-ins or on busboy. But these lyrics, they're going to get these lyrics. You know what I mean? They're going to get these songs. And the interesting thing that I loved about what Stevie said in that series, after he finished reading, he got emotional, and after he finished reading Brian Stevenson's letter to him, he said, reading this letter makes me want to create more music so I can help people create more things like what you're doing. And to me, that just made my heart smile, because I feel like that's what music is done for you, clearly, based upon your story. It's what it's done for me. And if an artist had that mentality, I wonder where our music would be today, across the board, so that's interesting. So, oh my God, I got so many things I want to talk about.
Yeah, I know. We can get going. We got to be careful.
I know. So music has obviously been an important aspect of your life. How did you actually begin a career in music? I mean, obviously, personally, it's done something to you in a positive way, but what made you say, I want to go down this path, and music is going to be a huge part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of thinking about my old story, now as I get older, I think that, so basically my own armchair diagnosis is that I've suffered from depression and anxiety since like puberty, right? I can almost think about, so I think besides, people talk about self-medicating, right? Of like, in college or whatever, thing like that, like, as a lot of college students probably drank too much. Mm-hmm. And I think about some of those days, it's like, that's what I was doing, right? I was self-medicating because I was homesick, right? That's the thing. But I think the other thing is that music was my therapy, to my other point. So therefore, I think the reason why I have such a passion is because my work is my medicine, right? Because hip hop is how has kept my sanity, kept my focus, kept me from losing myself. So therefore, I want to do it all the time, right? Like if same thing, it's like, it's not like a drug medicine, but if it's like, listen, I have asthma, so I need to be in the outdoors, then obviously you're going to be like, well, let me take a job where I can be outdoors all the time. Right. And therefore I love that job because the job is paying me this other compensation that's beyond, cash. So I think now as you ask me that question, I've never said that or thought that. Is that this is why I love it so much, because in education is that same medicine for me. Right. And having these conversations really just kind of brighten me up. So therefore, when depression comes, I'm like, wait, you know what I mean? Like I'm talking to Jay, there's no room for you right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, ooh, I want to talk to Jay again, and then I want to teach. So there's never any room for that to come in. So when I think about music, it was always my escape. It was the escape when I was feeling sad. It was an escape when I was feeling lonely. It was escape from, the brutality that I was facing, in all its various ways. And then what I realized to be a little bit less like meta, like I wanted to be a practitioner, right? I was supposed to be everyone wanted to be a rapper, a DJ, graffiti artist, or a b-boy, something like that. And I tell this joke, I tried it over a 10-day span and failed at all 4. So I was just like, So I suck at all of it, but I still love it. So how can I participate? So I thought I was going to be a writer, then I was going to be a filmmaker, and then kind of getting into sort of more of a manager, whatever the hell I was, I am executive. I realized like this is the best use of my talents. I can be that close to the art and this source of energy, and I don't have to actually perform it, but I'm totally fine to say, hey, I want to executive produce the album or produce your album. I'm not going to make any beats, but I know that beat with your voice works. And I know that I can sit in the mix session and say, drop the bass out here. And then I can go back to the office and conceive your artwork because I think about it all the time. So I think the business was my career path was the logical thing that would happen.
So it sounds like it almost found you. Yeah. Like you had to do it. It's out of necessity. Like how you move in the world is really predicated on the things that give you life, and that thing happens to be music. It sounds like.
No, absolutely.
That's dope. So when you started, how did that transition into you doing these because you founded or was a part of the founding group that does the Brooklyn Music Fest, correct?
Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival, yes.
Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival. And so how did you transition into doing those? If you're working on an album, how is creating something like that is historic and that people can remember year after year and reference, whether it be in songs or, man, I remember back in such and such, I met homegirl, or I kicked it with home, or I saw Jay. Like that's like iconic from a cultural standpoint, particularly in hip hop, when you can bring, because if you don't bring a dope event, we gonna talk about you. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a big fact.
So to have something that's more insular, being an artist and an album, and putting those two together, but then transitioning to many artists, many different types of music, and then on the backdrop of an outdoor event that could hit or miss. What made you transition into that?
Yeah, that's a great way. You're making me think about these things in ways I just never have. So I appreciate that. Well, one, just to sort of, almost a correction. So when I was running, my first business was running a label, right? Okay. So I was in the studio, but then it'd be like, it's time to go on tour, right? And now it's time to negotiate deals. So it wasn't really insular, right? It was actually me at the center of the wheel and being like, okay, book the studio, get the producer, help them, help the artists that I had signed, right? Let them bounce ideas off of me, come up with the marketing plan, find a booking agent, book the tour, license the music, talk to the distributor. So it actually was all of these things that had to flow through me. So to me, the festival is the same energy. It just manifests in a different way. It looks, you as a patron see, thankfully, the complications of doing a live event because you see all of the moving parts. With an album, like those albums on your wall, it's really almost impossible to see what did Badu have to do to create Mama's Gun. You just don't know. You just get the finished, you just get the steak, and you have no idea about the slaughtering the cow. So to really answer your question, how I arrived at the festival was failure. To think about also about The Alchemist, I'm on my journey, right? And it's not all roses. You get to one part and then you get knocked in the face and you go down and you got to go back up. So the record label essentially failed, right? Because we didn't make enough money, basic business, right? We weren't moving enough records. The market was contracting. So it just eventually we were like, yo, this is not viable anymore. I failed is harsh, but because people hate that word. I don't like it. It's a part of life, but it was not viable. So we said, that's over. The energy in me still exists. So it's like, so cool, you're over, but I'm not dead. So then that turned into another business. That business, the room service group, which was like a digital marketing company, very, very successful. But the market changed and then that ended. And then I'm saying, okay, cool, love you, goodbye, but I still got the energy. And then, so what's the new wave? It's this live event. So here we go, guys. Now we're doing live events. So to me, I'm the same person. The market changes. So what I do, it looks different.
Yeah, so you adapted to what the cards that you were dealt.
It's right. And think about you. I just think about, you know, as an athlete, you're like, well, maybe however tall you are at, you know, let's say you're 6'2", when you were in junior high school, you're a center, right? In high school, now you're a small forward. But now at college, you're a point guard.
Yeah, that's
you know, I'm still the same player. I'm still the same height.
I still want to hoop.
I still want to hoop, but yeah, cool. Okay, so I'm not the tallest anymore. Say less. Then I'm the middle. Okay, then I'll be a swingman, right? And then oh gosh, now I'm the shortest. I'm still nice. I'm still the same nice player from AAU or whatever. I'm still, so it's just like, but if this is the environment, then cool. And right, it's like, oh, so I could, you know, I got to play D, I got to jump shot, take it to the hole. Say less. I'm nice at all of that. So, but what you see so what you're seeing is just, right, me in, you know, playing, you know, pro ball. Be like, oh my goodness, how was that? But people who know you be like, that's the same Jay. That's the same crossover from high school.
From the park, right.
Same from the park. Right. It looks different to you, but really, if you look into it, be like, the world has changed, and then I have adapted to your point, right? I think that's what it was.
Absolutely.
And then I would say just one thing is that what I do like about the festival is it is the sum total of everything that I've learned, because all of the skills that you have to apply them almost like pop, 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 like marketing. Okay, in 1 hour, like if the festival's going on now, right, it's July 8th, it would probably start on Monday. So goodness, I'd be so stressed out normally right now. So in the course of an hour, it might be like, Wes approved artwork, Wes authorized this payment, Wes, the agent is calling, Wes, the sponsor is nervous. And I will have to be like, bing, 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 bing. But in rapid fire, so I'm thinking about, oh, I know how to talk to artists from when I was a manager. Oh, I know how to talk to, you know, the sound guy from when I was so when we were on tour. So it's a great way to sort of, it's all my talents. Like it's the perfect way.
All your tools in the toolkit, all of them.
Boom, what you need, boom, 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 and I'm dishing them out like cards. And that's why I think that's why the festival was successful, because it came towards not the beginning of my career, obviously not the beginning, hopefully not the end, but it came in a later version where I was able to have all these tools in my toolkit. Now,
how do you think, because I feel like music indirectly builds community, but how is your work, do you think specifically has built community? Do you think it really started at the festival, or was it before that, and different things that you were doing, or maybe different things you had your hand in before that?
Yo, do you have a bug in this house or something? Because you are in my head right now. I've been thinking about this. And I have the perfect answer, is that I've been doing the same things. So building community, and to your point, I found like an old flyer that we did in 2004. And I looked at the artwork, and the artwork has the same like goofy dad joke that I make now to my students. And I'm like, I've been this goofball my whole life. You know what I mean? I've been about, it was a Christmas, it was like a holiday card. And I took the whole staff and we got in these B-boy poses and sent it out. I've been about building community at every single turn, right? And I think maybe going back to my own mental health issues, when you become depressed, you get sort of isolated. So I spent a lot of time by myself. So as I cope with it, I was like, I hate that feeling, and I don't want anybody else to have that feeling. So if there's another little chubby Black kid who doesn't think that they are valuable, it is my function, like a good coach, to be like, come here. you know, come with me. I'll, you know, and let me at least reach out to you. So I think now you got me thinking about that, all of this other stuff, you know, in my life. But you were saying, so it was like, was building community part of the festival, or was it the start before that? Was that the question?
Yeah, it's just like how have you transitioned in building community in your work even today? Because it sounds like because you were so connected to music, you've been doing it. But now, as you've evolved in all these different aspects of your career, how do you feel you're building community now?
Here, I got it for you. And again, to keep, I started with the sports references, right? So I was never like, so I coach lacrosse, right? I'm the chair of lacrosse of this youth lacrosse club here that focused on diversity. I played lacrosse at boarding school. 5 All-Americans wound up being on that team. I rode the bench. I'm never going to lie about that. I was an average to middling lacrosse player on a team with 3 dudes went to go on a national championship, all of that stuff. Why was I on that team? Why did I make the cut when there could have been a junior who should have made that team, and I made it finally as a senior? Because, you know, I'm like that good teammate, right? I'm the one early to practice. First, you know, running the drill every well. I'm fun on the bus, right? I'm in the huddles when you're getting your butt whooped, staying positive. That I think coaches were like, yeah, not put Wes on the team, not for the actual skill, because he will help.
He raises the morale.
He's good for morale, right? Yeah. I don't, because I'm sad. I was sad all the time by myself. When you see me, I'm like, it's all love. And I'm like, I've had enough sadness. When I see you, Jay, I just want love. I don't want to bring you down. So it was like, what? And then I realized that with those type A, right, you got 5 All-Americans. That could be a problem because there's only one ball. So we need somebody to be like, y'all chill out and work together. And that was my function. So I've always realized that I'm not the smartest. I'm not the best negotiator, right? I'm not, you know, whatever the case may be, but I'm very sensitive. So I know when somebody is in a bad mood over there, or when somebody is not performing, I can catch it before sometimes they even realize it. And then I can nip the problem in the bud before it comes. And that's why all my ventures I think have been successful, because I get people thinking like, listen, we're all in this together. I'm the leader, and I actually think I'm the least important part of this organization. So what's your excuse? It's like, yeah, you know what? Right. So let's all, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think about me. I'm thinking about you. You don't think about yourself. You think about that man next to you. And then the circle. So it's like, so if I forfeit the self, right? And if we all do it, if it's a 5, right, it's a 10-man team in lacrosse. If each person sacrifices the self, that means 9 people are looking out for you. But if you only think about yourself, that's 1. So I always was able to do that calculation of like, just forget about yourself, think about the next man, and I'll make sure the next man thinks about you. And I think that's why I've seen the power of a community accomplish things that really shouldn't be done. The festival, listen, Jay, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Those first couple of years of the festival, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, right? None of us knew what we were doing. We never were in events, right? We didn't know what we were doing. We may have fudged the numbers on attendance. I may have told them, and I may have exaggerated the truth to a sponsor. But you know what? But my team was tight. And and because of that cohesion, when I would say something that I didn't know what I was talking about, my wife Ebony was like, I know what that is, give it to me. And therefore everybody was just wilding. Everybody was just putting themselves out there, because it was like, if you get caught out there, all of us got your back. So keep going. So and then the festival actually became the thing that we gassed it up to be in the beginning. So when Jay-Z comes, you know, people are like, oh my God. I got people at Def Jam like, yo, how did you do that? I'm like, he's on your label. Or Rock Nation people are like, how did you get Jay to come out here? I'm like, how are you asking me? He's your boss. And they're like, I could never get him to come out. And I said, because he sees my whole unit. So our unit plays above our, you know, the 100 of us did the work of the 1,000 at Live Nation better.
So I know I already asked you this question about tell me a story, but I gotta hear how that actually happened. Like, please because I am like, I'm probably one of the biggest Jay-Z fans that you will ever meet. And I just cannot imagine doing an event and Jay-Z hauls off and comes and not only comes to just be there, but actually graces the stage in a way that is like epic. Like, tell me how the hell did that happen? Was it an accident? Was it just the way the stars aligned? Is that your homie that you ain't put me on? Like, what
Well,
is it?
Well, I'll tell you this, and I gotta be careful because I got a meeting with the dean at 2, so
Okay.
I can't go too far over that. But I could go. This is when I see you again. I'll give you the full blow by blow. So it was all the stars aligned. Yes, right. It was a higher power at work. It was this. It was alchemy. It was putting the thought into the universe. It was all of those intangible things that some people don't believe. But it was also a lot of smart people busting their ass to get it done.
Okay.
A lot of smart people, and I have to say, a lot of smart women. I have to lie that as you think about speaking into the air, I can't lie. It was probably 4 brilliant women who said we're going to get this done, who were on my team and who I supported. So but the story, so we had booked Jay, and it also kind of comes of what you got me now thinking about probably for the next week, is out of my depression. 2013, we have Pusha T headlining. We don't sell enough tickets, right? We almost go bankrupt. I think about pulling the plug on the whole thing. I walk around, I basically go into my deep depression, meditate on it in a sense, and get a vision of don't quit now, it's not yet. Almost like as clear as I'm talking to you, a vision of like, no. And the vision was Brooklyn Bodega presents, Brooklyn Bodega and Rock Nation present the 3 J's at the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival. I saw the poster. It was Jay-Z, Jay Electronica, J. Cole, right? And I said, what a great thing. And that vision gave me the motivation. So, Baba, fast forward. We booked Jay Electronica. It all comes down to Jay Electronica. As soon as we book Jay Electronica, he calls Jay-Z and says, yo, I'm coming to your town. You better come. Hov is like, yeah, whatever. Like, okay, yes. Like, you can't tell me what to do. I'll try. But, all of that double talk. Jay Elect and his manager at the time, Kate Rothschild, banging every day. I didn't realize. This is one of the smart women working on it. They're working on it silently. My talent buyer at the time, assisting Tatiana Sai, about a month before the show, says, Wes, they just announced the On the Run routing. And I see that Jay and Beyonce are going to be at Giant Stadium on the Friday before us and the Saturday night of our thing. So theoretically, he will be in town. I want it. I'm like, yo, Tati, okay, like, sure, have fun with that. Right. Because I've been trying to get Jay since day one, but yo, I'm with you. If you, like, I got you. Like, you got to lead. I don't have the energy for that anymore because I failed so many times. Young, smart woman is like, I'm on it. I'm driven and all this other stuff. She puts together essentially a sort of invisible plan to put data points on Jay's radar to let him and his team arrive at this decision. All the while, Jay Electronica is doing the same thing. So I'm talking about tweets, Instagram posts, conversations, drinks at a bar with that person with Rock Nation, with, trying to get somebody who knows Tata. Like, she's poking every hole she can imagine. Then conversations with Jay Electronica, who for the whole time was kind of in London, not talking to us. About 2 weeks before the show, Jay Electronica is calling Tatiana almost every day. What's the ticket sales like? What's the ticket sales like? What's the security plan? And she was like, I don't know why he's calling me at like 6 a.m, him and his manager, Naheem. And she's like, I don't know what's going on. She was like, and then Tati was like, Hov is coming. I said, Tatiana, you gassing yourself. I know you want to think that.
Stop playing with me. Stop playing with me.
Stop playing. She was like, I don't care, Wes. It's happening. I know. I can feel it. Whatever. Just answer his emails or he won't come. Long story. This could be a long story. 10 days before the show, we got to have a conference call, right? Go to the conference call, me, Tati, and Naheem, Jay Electronics manager. We dial into the conference line and we hear click, right? Somebody was on the line and got off. Right? Then we start talking, we can tell somebody's dialed back into the line. And Naheem is pausing in between his answers. We get off the line, we were like, yo, Jay Electronica is on the phone, doesn't want us to know. The next day, they send this email, said, listen, you can't say a word. If you say a word, if this gets out, if it leaks, if there's a tweet, I don't care who it comes from, we're canceling the whole show. We're like, uh-oh. They're like, Hov is coming. And we're sitting there like, I so remember this. Tati was in the office. I was in the car going to the office. And she was like, we'll get back to you later. We hung up and it was like 5 minutes of dead silence. And she calls me back, right? And she was like, she picked up, she called me and nobody said anything. We're on the phone just like.
What just happened?
And we're like, we know what just happened. You did it. And it wasn't like, oh my God. I said, Tatiana, you did it. Stop acting like this is some sort of magical occurrence. You said this was going to happen. And I had the vision 9 months ago. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So let's get to work. And she's done. And we just got to work. We had code names. I mean, especially when you're dealing with Jay, it is like, I imagine it has to be like dealing with the president. There are code names. There's Secret Service versions. There are people in the crowd who are undercover. The NYPD has to be alerted. It was a whole production that we had to put together in a couple of days. And when I did hang up the phone with her, a tear came down my eye. Not because I'm the biggest Jay-Z fan, because I said, you didn't quit, Wes. You didn't quit. And thank God you didn't quit. Your dreams are coming to fruition. This is your function, is to let everybody know that it can be done. And all the people told me it could never happen. They don't know. And if you ever see the video, it's a great thing. And I'm going on, sorry, Jay, but like, there's a video. So he comes and people going crazy and he introduces me and I get to meet him and all this other stuff. He goes back in time and there's, I know he's coming. So I jump out into the crowd because I just want to see it. And Jay Jay Tron's like, give it up, everybody, put your diamonds in the sky. Put your diamonds in the sky. And then Hov is talking into the mic. He's like, yo, my earpiece is not working. And saw people getting beers, drop their beers and was like, is that who I think it was? And if you've ever seen 1,000 people run, and then he gets up there and what does Hov do? Young, Gifted, and Black. Right? He comes out there and does Young, Gifted, and Black. You know what I'm saying?
I'm getting chills just listening, bro.
Yo, me too, man. I'm gonna watch it. I watch it. And then so he does that. They do Shiny Suit Theory. So this is not champagne popping Hov. This is Black liberation Hov. And so he curated that playlist according to our energy. So I'm just sitting in the crowd like, I
probably would have been sobbing. I don't know how you kept it together, bro. I don't know how you kept it together, man.
I mean, it was just like, I don't know, right? At some point, right, you just you maybe look at your daughter and being like, what a beautiful woman, man. Yeah. But you know what? But then it's like, you was beautiful from the moment I first laid eyes on you. This is not new news to me.
Right.
You know, and that's what it was. It was like, look at all y'all. But you don't know.
This is a culmination of you walking in your purpose, essentially.
Yeah.
End the statement. That moment was a culmination of you putting in the energy to something where you felt was your calling.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So that there's no better higher note to end on that, man. Like, yo, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, bro.
I know. I'm sorry if I go on and on a little bit.
Nah, man. It was just a great conversation. I want to definitely bring you back on the show, man. I know you gotta go. Before I go, man, I want you to hear that I see you, brother. I love you, man. I appreciate your work. I appreciate you. And I'm excited to see, you know, what you got in store for us next, man.
Agree. And the same goes back to you, man. All of that. I love you. I appreciate your energy. I like how you move in this world. I think I want to learn from it. And I think you need to make sure you keep shining that light because people are watching you, right? I'm going to say that we work together. Mm-hmm. I've been in rooms where people talk about you, right? People are watching you and they are like, more. And people saying like, yes, new hire, how do we get him? I want more of that. That's my position, right? I want more staff, more faculty, more nothing. So how are we gonna get more of that? Oh, you know, I'm telling you, I want the prime rib. Well, I also have until you tell me I don't get no prime rib, I'm telling you I want prime rib. So and you already know who it is, right? Yeah. I'm not gonna blow them up, but we sitting around here and like, we need to use our power. And there's people that you know who I'm talking about, and there's other people who you don't maybe not know who I'm talking about, but we sitting in rooms like, we must use our power to bring more people like Jay on board. There's not enough Black men in here. There's not enough opportunities at Emerson like this. There's not enough Black men enrolled in here. All of this stuff. This is what we're doing. That's what I'm actively doing. So you keep shining because we trying to get the students in there that can see you. We want you to work on all of our initiatives. So I know sometimes people don't say that, right? But you doing your thing and we see it.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you, man. And I'm looking forward to getting back to where we can dap and laugh and hug like we supposed to, man.
Yes, sir.
You have a great rest of your day, brother.
All right, man. I see you. I got to run to this thing. Talk to you later, bro.
Peace.